All right, so today we're going deep on something super important for us in public service.
Yeah,
The duty to consult with Indigenous groups.
it is.
We make decisions every day that impact people's lives, and understanding this duty is key to serving all Canadians fairly and respectfully.
Absolutely. And, it's about more than just following the law.
Yeah,
It's about building those strong relationships with Indigenous communities
for sure.
and making sure that their voices are heard when government actions might affect their rights.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of info from the Government of Canada website to unpack today,
Yeah.
like guidelines and real-world examples. But I'm really interested in, how this impacts our work directly.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start with the foundation.
Okay.
So the duty to consult stems from the honor of the Crown and is enshrined in Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982.
Okay, so it's like a legal obligation, but I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just checking a box. The Supreme Court of Canada has actually weighed in on this
Oh,
in some major cases,
Okay.
like the Haida case, that have really shaped how the government approaches consultation.
I remember hearing about that case in law school.
Oh, yeah.
But refresh my memory. What was so important about it?
Well, the Haida case established
Yeah.
that the duty to consult is triggered before decisions are made, not after.
Oh, okay.
And the level of consultation has to be proportionate to the potential impact on Indigenous rights.
Okay.
So it's really about meaningful dialogue, not just going through the motions.
So it sounds like this goes way beyond just sending out a notification or holding a quick meeting.
Exactly. It's about fostering a genuine relationship built on respect
Yeah.
and a willingness to truly listen and consider Indigenous perspectives.
Makes sense. But with everything we have on our plates as public servants,
Right.
where do we even begin?
That's where CIRNAC comes in.
Okay.
Crown-Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada.
CIRNAC.
They're your go-to resource. They have a ton of training, guidelines, and resources
Okay.
to help us navigate this whole process.
So like our consultation gurus.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And they even have this incredible tool called the Aboriginal and Treaty Rights Information System, or ATRIS.
ATRIS, what is that exactly?
So imagine you're working on a new policy or a project, and you need to quickly figure out which Indigenous groups might be affected
Okay.
and what their specific rights and claims are.
Yeah.
ATRIS has all that information in one place.
Wow, that sounds like a lifesaver.
It is.
I can see how that would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Making sure we're considering all the angles.
Absolutely. It's all about being informed and proactive.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of proactive, let's talk about how the duty to consult plays out in the work we do every day.
I mean, I could see how it would apply to things like big infrastructure projects or land development.
Right.
But does it really touch every corner of public service?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
From approving permits and licenses to developing policies,
Okay.
almost everything we do has the potential to impact Indigenous communities.
So even something that seems routine could trigger the duty to consult.
Potentially, yes.
Wow.
The source material highlights activities like regulatory approvals, operational decisions.
Yeah.
It's a broad scope.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
This isn't just about a few specific departments.
Right.
It's something we all need to be thinking about no matter what our role is.
Exactly. And that's why these resources from CIRNAC are so valuable.
Okay.
They can help us figure out when consultation is needed
Yeah.
and how to approach it effectively.
So it's not just about avoiding legal trouble.
Right.
It's about making sure that what we do as public servants actually benefits Indigenous communities.
Yes.
And doesn't infringe on their rights.
Exactly. It's about building trust and working together to create solutions
Yeah.
that work for everyone.
What really stands out to me is the emphasis on building relationships, not just going through the motions.
Absolutely. And that takes time.
Yeah.
And genuine effort. One way the government is demonstrating this commitment is through consultation protocols.
Consultation protocols, what are those?
Think of them like formal agreements between the government and Indigenous groups that outline clear processes for engagement and collaboration.
So it's about setting the ground rules
Yes.
for a respectful and productive partnership.
Precisely. And we're talking about real-world impact here.
Yeah.
For example, there's the protocol with the Deanthaw First Nation in Alberta
Okay.
and another with the Mi'kmaq in Nova Scotia.
I'm curious, can you give me an example of how a consultation protocol actually worked in practice?
Sure. Take the Mackenzie Gas Pipeline Consultation Protocol with the Deanthaw First Nation.
Okay.
It lays out a framework for how the government will consult with them on decisions related to the pipeline project, ensuring their traditional knowledge and concerns,
Yeah.
are taken into account throughout the project's entire life cycle.
So it's not just about getting a project approved. It's about making sure that development happens in a way that respects Indigenous rights and interests.
Exactly. And that kind of collaborative approach is what we as public servants should be striving for.
This is fascinating, but I'm already feeling like I need to take some notes.
Yeah.
And do some more reading.
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
Okay.
Remember those CIRNAC training sessions we mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, there's even more to discover about them and how they can help us.
Okay, I'm all ears. What else should we know about these training sessions?
These training sessions are incredible. They're specifically designed for public servants.
Okay.
And tailored to meet the needs of different regions.
So they're not just generic workshops.
Nope.
They're actually relevant to our day-to-day work.
Absolutely. They cover everything from understanding the legal framework and Indigenous rights to practical tips on assessing consultation requirements and developing accommodation measures.
Accommodation measures, I've heard that term thrown around.
Right.
But what does it actually mean in practice?
That's a great question. Accommodation goes beyond just talking and listening.
Okay.
It involves taking concrete actions to address the concerns raised by Indigenous groups during consultation.
So it's about finding ways to actually prevent or reduce any negative impacts on their rights and interest.
Precisely. It might involve modifying project plans, implementing special measures, or even considering alternative approaches altogether.
That sounds like it could get pretty complicated.
It can be complex for sure.
Yeah.
But these training sessions delve into all of that.
Okay.
They give you the knowledge and tools to navigate those complexities effectively.
I can definitely see how that would be valuable.
Yeah.
Having those real-world skills to put this knowledge into practice is essential.
For sure. And remember, these sessions are ongoing.
Okay.
The government is committed to continuous improvement. So there are always opportunities to enhance your understanding and stay up to date on best practices.
Okay. I'm definitely adding that to my to-do list. Sign me up for a CIRNAC training session.
You won't regret it. You know what's really encouraging is that these training sessions are having a tangible impact.
Oh, wow.
Thousands of federal employees from all sorts of departments and agencies have already benefited from them.
That's fantastic to hear. It shows that this isn't just lip service.
Right.
The government is really investing in equipping public servants with the tools to fulfill the duty to consult effectively.
Speaking of investments, there's another exciting development on the horizon.
Okay.
The 2023 federal budget allocated funding for engaging with Indigenous communities.
Oh, wow.
To help develop new federal guidelines on consultation.
Wow, that's huge. So they're actually involving Indigenous communities in shaping the guidelines.
Exactly. It's a significant shift toward a more collaborative and inclusive approach.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Who better to inform these guidelines than the people they will directly impact?
It's incredible to see this level of commitment to ensuring that the guidelines are truly reflective of the needs and perspectives of Indigenous peoples.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the government's commitment to reconciliation.
Yeah.
And to recognizing the expertise and knowledge that Indigenous communities bring to the table.
So while we wait for these new guidelines to be released, what guidance is currently available for public servants navigating the duty to consult?
There are existing guidelines from March 2011 called Aboriginal Consultation and Accommodation Updated Guidelines for Federal Officials to Fulfill the Duty to Consult.
Are those still relevant even though new guidelines are in development?
Absolutely. They provide a comprehensive overview of the government's approach to consultation, outlining key principles like early engagement, meaningful dialogue, and flexible approaches.
So they offer a solid foundation for understanding the core concepts and processes involved.
Exactly. They also emphasize the importance of transparency and accountability throughout the consultation process, which is crucial for building trust with Indigenous communities.
Transparency and accountability. Those are key principles in all areas of public service, really.
You're absolutely right. It's about being open about our intentions, our processes, and the potential impacts of our decisions.
And about being willing to listen to feedback. And make adjustments along the way.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that consultation is a two-way street. And that we can learn a great deal from Indigenous communities.
You know what I find particularly helpful about these existing guidelines? Are the practical tips and examples they provide. It's not just theoretical. They offer concrete guidance on how to assess consultation requirements. Identify potential impacts and develop those accommodation measures we were talking about.
I agree. Those practical examples are invaluable.
Yeah.
They really help to bring the concepts to life and make them more relatable for public servants.
Right.
Who are trying to put this knowledge into action.
It's like having a roadmap.
Yeah.
For navigating the complexities of consultation with confidence.
Speaking of navigating complexities,
yeah.
It's important to remember that the duty to consult often involves working with multiple partners, including other levels of government.
Oh, right. Federal actions can have implications for provincial and territorial jurisdictions.
Exactly.
And vice versa. So how does that factor into the consultation process?
That's a crucial aspect the government has been actively working to strengthen collaboration and coordination with provinces and territories.
So it's about working together to streamline the process.
Yeah.
And ensure that Indigenous communities aren't overwhelmed with multiple overlapping requests for consultation.
Exactly. They've signed memoranda of understanding with several provinces and territories, outlining a commitment to information sharing and joint approaches to consultation.
It sounds like collaborative governance at its best, working together to achieve better outcomes for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And this collaboration extends beyond just other levels of government. But the government has also established interdepartmental consultation and accommodation networks.
What do those networks do?
They bring together various federal departments and agencies to share information best practices and coordinate consultation efforts.
So it's about breaking down those silos.
Right.
And fostering a more cohesive and consistent approach across the government.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And that by sharing our knowledge and experiences, we can all become more effective in fulfilling the duty to consult.
This whole deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. It's clear that fulfilling the duty to consult isn't just a legal box to check. It's a fundamental aspect of public service.
It is.
That goes hand in hand with our commitment to serving all Canadians with respect and integrity.
I completely agree. It's about building trust, fostering reconciliation.
And working collaboratively to create a more just and equitable Canada for everyone.
We've covered so much ground already, from the legal foundations to the practical resources and guidelines.
Right.
But there's one key area we still need to explore in more detail. The concept of accommodation.
You're right. And beyond that, we should also touch on some emerging trends in the field of Indigenous consultation.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Let's take a quick break to gather our thoughts, and then we'll dive into those topics in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay. So we're back and ready to dive into this concept of accommodation.
Yeah, it's a crucial part of the process.
You
know, we talked about consultation being about dialogue and engagement.
Right.
But accommodation goes a step further. It's about taking concrete actions to address those concerns and perspectives raised by Indigenous groups during the consultation process.
So it's not enough to just listen.
Right.
We have to be willing to actually change our plans or approaches based on what we hear.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to prevent or mitigate potential adverse impacts on Indigenous rights and interests. That might mean modifying project plans, implementing special measures, or even considering alternative approaches altogether.
Can you give me like a real-world example of what that might look like?
Imagine a scenario where a mining company is planning a project that could impact a nearby Indigenous community's traditional hunting grounds.
So through consultation, the company learns that the community relies heavily on those grounds for sustenance and cultural practices.
Exactly.
So in that case, accommodation might involve the company like adjusting their project boundaries to avoid those sensitive areas.
Exactly. Or they might develop a plan to compensate the community for any loss of access to resources. The key is to be flexible, creative, and willing to find solutions that work for everyone involved.
This all sounds really important.
It is.
But I can also imagine it getting pretty complex. Like, how do we even begin to figure out what the appropriate level of accommodation is?
Right. It's definitely context specific. The source material highlights several factors to consider, like the strength of the Indigenous group's claim, the severity of the potential impacts, and the feasibility of different accommodation options.
So there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Exactly. It requires careful analysis and a genuine commitment to finding solutions that strike a balance between respecting Indigenous rights and pursuing the broader public interest.
This is where those CIRNAC training sessions organizations you talked about could really come in handy, right?
Absolutely. They provide guidance on how to assess accommodation requirements and develop effective strategies.
Okay.
They also offer real-world case studies that can help us understand how accommodation has been implemented in various contexts.
As we're talking about this, I'm starting to realize that accommodation isn't just about fulfilling a legal duty. It's also an opportunity to do things better.
Yeah.
To come up with more innovative and sustainable solutions.
That's a fantastic point. When we approached challenges with a willingness to accommodate different perspectives, we often end up with better outcomes for everyone.
It's like that saying, 2 heads are better than 1.
Right.
By incorporating Indigenous knowledge and values into our decision-making processes, we can tap into a wealth of experience and wisdom.
Exactly. For example, think about incorporating Indigenous traditional knowledge into environmental assessments.
Yeah.
That can lead to more comprehensive and effective impact mitigation measures.
So it's not just about avoiding harm.
Right.
It's about actually enhancing our work and achieving better results for everyone involved.
Precisely. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I'm curious, are there any other emerging trends in the field of Indigenous consultation that we should be aware of?
One notable trend is the increasing emphasis on free, prior, and informed consent, or FPIC.
FPIC. I've heard that term before.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure what it means.
It's a principle rooted in international law that recognizes the right of Indigenous peoples to give or withhold their consent to projects or activities that affect their lands and resources.
So it's not just about consulting with them.
Right.
It's about getting their actual agreement before moving forward.
Exactly. It raises the bar in terms of engagement and requires a higher level of collaboration and consensus building.
Yeah.
While it's not yet fully enshrined in Canadian law, it's gaining momentum and is likely to shape future consultation practices.
That sounds like a significant shift. Are there any other trends we should have on our radar?
Another trend is the use of technology to enhance consultation processes.
Okay.
We're seeing more online platforms and tools being used to facilitate communication, information sharing, and collaboration.
That makes sense. Technology can definitely help overcome geographical barriers.
Yeah.
And make it easier to engage with a wider range of stakeholders.
Exactly. But it's important to be mindful of the potential challenges, too. We need to ensure that these technologies are used in a way that respects Indigenous cultural protocols and doesn't create barriers to participation.
Right. Technology should be a tool for inclusion, not exclusion.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with?
First and foremost, remember that fulfilling the duty to consult is an ongoing journey. It's about building relationships, fostering understanding, and working together to achieve better outcomes for everyone.
And it's something that all of us in public service have a role to play in,
Absolutely.
no matter what our specific job titles are.
By embracing the principles of consultation and accommodation, we can help build a more just equitable and prosperous Canada for all.
This has been an incredibly informative and thought-provoking deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. I hope this conversation has empowered our listeners to approach their work with renewed awareness and a commitment to building strong relationships with Indigenous communities.